Hi, folks. Just wanted to give you some feedback as a whole group, as a course here on the WebQuest. I saw really a lot of great activities that certainly can be used and be effective in the classroom. Whether some came from elementary, some came from high school, some came from science, some came from or math or social studies, even some ELA stuff in here. So all really good stuff. I saw especially a lot of good resources that people were able to put in here and really creative tasks and processes that I thought would really do a nice job of engaging your students. Make sure, just a couple things to touch on before we wrap up this unit and you move into your e-portfolio. Always make sure to have some sort of introduction or learning objectives or contact information for you as the instructor or the teacher. I know some of you did, some of you didn't. Just make sure that you always have that in there for people to ask you questions. It really makes it a lot easier for you moving forward. And one thing that's nice about this is one of you asked in the exit slip about making almost like a database of web quests. So one thing that's nice about when you use, for instance, Google Sites, I had some people use Quest Garden. You can just make a copy of those. So for instance, if you have Google Sites and you created one of your web quests here and you would like to use a web quest later on in a future semester or future quarter, you can just make a copy and now you've got your WebQuest template done and go in there and now you can just kind of massage it a little bit and get it to that specific topic or unit or lesson, whatever it is that you're focused on. So yes, in a way you can do that, and I'd like to see you do that. Just make sure you're teaching simpler and easier. Why reinvent the wheel? There really is no need to do that whatsoever. One thing I did want to mention was I would like you to really focus on creating a role for your students in a web quest. So if make them an investigator, make them a scientist that's exploring something like that, because you want to give them a role that they can actively engage in, a real life scenario. Some people had, for instance, like the process of a jury and defining and creating an argument based upon evidence. Some people were explorers. Some people were travelers who had to put information and utilize a passport to collect information, for instance. So give your students a specific role and try to have them create something at the end of the web quest. Don't just make it a quiz or a short writing entry. Have them create an actual project, something that they can use. Remember, you're not going to use a web quest all the time. So you want to make this something that matters and something that is going to be worth something. So your rubrics, a few of you gave me rubrics that were just like questions from a worksheet. Okay, you got to fix that up. You don't want, that's not your conclusion of a web quest. That's an in-class activity that you do one day. But a web quest, we go beyond that. So the role and coming up with a more creative and engaging assignment for them to do at the end is really important. You want to make sure you do that. And lastly, the final element I'd like to talk about is the accessibility of documents. So sometimes when I was looking through these web quests, I found that people still had documents that were not uploaded correctly. So, or I was unable to access them. I needed permission. So two things. Always make sure your documents are set up for anybody to view. Same thing with your web quest, but always for your documents. And the thing is even when you put a document into a Google site directly, even if the website is available to everybody, the individual document will not be available unless the specific share settings of that document are available for anyone to view. So always make sure you check the specific share setting of the document and then upload it into sites. It's quirky, it's a pain in the butt, but the last thing you want to do is be in front of a class or have your class go and now all of a sudden they can't access the document and you got to go find it and you got to re-upload. And once you do that, okay, once you have that corrected, or you find any errors in here in your web quest that you want to tighten up a little bit, or maybe your directions aren't quite as clear as you thought they were, go up back to your computer, type in whatever it is you need to fix or change that share setting, republish the site, and then once your students have it, if they just simply refresh the page, that updated version will come onto their screen instantly, and then you're good to go. And that will happen as you do these. You'll find you just need to tighten them up a little bit, or you get ideas for something else that comes later on after you've already created it. Utilize that. It's another advantage that you have to actually creating these. You can change them in real time and do it right away. So really overall, pretty solid job. If you have any questions, let me know. As for the only other question that I saw really kind of come up here was about the different age groups. That was kind of a common question on the exit slip. 2 or 3 people talked about that. It's going to come down to what you want to do. I've seen really some pretty simple elementary ones where students are going and looking at shapes in nature, for instance, and they take on the role of a student investigator, and they have to go and do that. I've seen others where they're being scientists and they're conducting experiments in a lab. So it's going to come down to what you want to utilize, how you want to use it in your individual classroom. That's really, really good. And talking about the edited at any time, that's what I was going back to there. And last thing that I mentioned before I get off here, I want to make sure I keep it under 6 minutes. Avoid pasting URLs into your documents, especially into Google Sites. Take an image, highlight the image, or hyperlink the image, I should say, to a URL and send the students to it that way. Make it more engaging instead of just pasting in a bunch of URLs into your documents, whether that's Google Docs, that's slides, that's sites, whatever it is. Make that a little bit more engaging, hyperlink to an actual image that's related to what you want to talk about, and have your students access the information that way. Overall, very solid job, and I look forward to your e-portfolios here, which are coming up in the next 2 weeks. So I look forward to that. If you have any questions about that assignment, please let me know.